Welcome to Season 3, Episode 9 of the Sports Corner Podcast. My name is Nick. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Steven. And tonight we are breaking down another week of college football. We might hear a little bit about the NFL. All kinds of fun stuff going on in tonight's show. We're glad that you're here, joining us either live on twitch.tv/PastorNick86 or on your favorite podcast app, or, of course, also on YouTube. Many places that you can find this content, however you found it. Thank you. Welcome. Steven, my good friend, how are you?
I am well, sir. How are you?
I can't complain. It's been a day. It's been a good couple of days.
Okay.
You know,
2 days. Can't be
there's a lot going on behind the scenes in the city of Knoxville right now. That's making life stressful for me and my household, but it is great to be able to take a break from that to come talk sports, to come discuss and to play some games tonight. So exciting for that. So
escape the real world for a little bit. I like that.
Absolutely.
Before we get too far, is my camera any better, or is it still struggling?
Your camera, it's a little better.
Okay.
It's a little better.
Chat, do I look bad? I mean, I know I look bad, but is it the camera's fault or is it just me?
It's like the camera quality is bad, but that actually helps your overall appearance a little bit. So, you know, we take what we can get. Here, chat, I'll put them on the big screen for you. There you go. Speaking of which, if you are listening to this in your ears right now, you can be watching this. We are live. I think I said this earlier, but we are live on twitch.tv every week, also on Facebook. So, in any case, though, we are excited that we get to talk about sports, and so we're going to jump right into it. We're going to start with our helmet stickers tonight. We're going to talk about a couple of players who did some good things. I'm going to start off with a helmet sticker going to a kicker of all players, a guy by the name of Gabe Burkish, or Burkish, or however one might say that. I think everyone can completely agree that this young man has too many consonants in his name back to back before we finally get to a vowel. But he is the kicker for the Oklahoma Sooners, and despite having too many back-to-back consonants in his name, he is worthy of a helmet sticker for tonight and really for the whole season. He has actually been a constant source of points for the Sooners all year. This past week, though, why he's definitely getting one is that he led the Oklahoma Sooners in scoring, which, by the way, is probably never a good thing when your kicker is leading you in scoring, but that's what happened. He hit 3 for 3 and a point after the touchdown as well, mind you. So that's 9-10 total points, if you count that PAT, that he contributed to the Sooners' victory this past week. He is also the first and only Sooner in history to kick a game-winning field goal as time expired. That's kind of crazy to me. Oklahoma is a long and storied program. They have a lot of games under their belt. You would think that they would have, at some point in their history before the year 2021, have kicked a game-winning field goal as time expired. Yet it had never happened before. It has happened now. The honor goes to this young man, and I will say that he has been good all year. He's a big reason why the struggling Sooners are 4-0, including hitting like a 56-yard and hitting 3 50-plus ones in a single game earlier this season. So he gets my first helmet sticker for the night.
You just couldn't go 2 weeks without something positive for the Sooners, huh?
Yeah, I have no idea what my... Not a whole lot of positive things to say about the Sooners right now, so I'll take it where I can get it.
Fair enough. My first helmet sticker goes to a guy named Sincere McCormick.
Wow.
He's a running back for the University of Texas at San Antonio.
You sincerely must be kidding me.
First of all, he probably should have been moved to my winners segment because of that name.
Yeah.
But I decided to put him here.
I think you should just read this note again when we get to the winner segment. He should be mentioned twice.
I mean, with a name like that, you have to think about it. We talked about fake names last week, so we'll just keep that trend going. So last year, McCormick was the 6th-ranked rusher in yards per game and 2nd in total yards behind only Iowa State's Breece Hall. Kind of a good player. A lot of preseason hype for old Breece Hall. This year, McCormick has led the Roadrunners, another great name, by the way, to their first 4-0 start since 2012, with big-time wins over Illinois and Memphis, the latter being this past Saturday. So UTSA trailed 21-0 in the first quarter, but battled back to win on a last-second field goal. And McCormick was once again the engine that made it all run. He garnered 42 carries. That's a lot of carries.
No carries.
For 184 yards and 3 scores, which brings his season totals to 452 yards on 103 carries with 5 touchdowns. So not the flashiest of all stat lines, but it's getting the job done. They're 4-0, and UTSA is ready to make a run at the Conference USA title.
He was a workhorse for sure. I think Roadrunners is a cool nickname for a team, but I have to say, when it comes to Looney Tunes, I was on Team Coyote because I always feel bad for the guy that can never win. So always root for that underdog, I guess. My second helmet sticker is going to Bryce Young. Yes, that is the quarterback from Alabama. No, it's not, it's probably shocking at this point that he's putting up numbers. But Bama ended their September slate of games with Southern Miss, and no one expected this to be a close game. No one expected this to be a game that, Young or the rest of the team struggled in. But as a player, all you can do is come out and play your game. Play your best, do what you're supposed to do, and that's exactly what this young man did. He had his best game of the season thus far. He went 20 for 22, threw for 313 yards, and had 5 touchdowns. And of course, of no great shock or surprise, he did not even have to play the entirety of the game. He got to go sit down and rest after a while because Alabama was up in such a significant fashion. But, there's been a common theme that there has been a lot of the preseason Heisman picks that have just kind of simmered out. And Bryce Young is keeping himself in that conversation, probably rising his stock with each and every game. And again, he's going to get some more difficult defenses and some more difficult games coming down the slate. But what he's doing so far, and certainly what he did this past week, worthy of praise, worthy of the helmet sticker. Good job, young man.
Way to go, $1 million Bryce Young.
Yeah, and he's got the money to boot.
He really needed something to go his way.
It's really rough.
Poor guy. My helmet sticker, my second one, my last one, goes to Jake Haener, I believe is how you say it.
Okay.
He is the quarterback at Fresno State. So we talked a little bit about Fresno State before on the pod, but it is time to show them some serious love. Wow. So coming off last week's huge road upset of number 13 UCLA, a team that you and I were both very high on. We gave them quite a bit of praise. We should have known better. So, like I said, they upset them last week, and this week he continued to dominate against UNLV. Now, UNLV, there is a caveat, they are terrible, like quite terrible. But the Bulldogs came out flat in this game.
Like Vanderbilt could score a touchdown against them, terrible.
Like Vanderbilt
not win,
could possibly beat them. They're that bad. So the Bulldogs came out flat. They did not reach the end zone until the end of the first half, like the last minute. But then things flipped in the second half. So Haener, the quarterback, finished 30 of 42 for 378 yards with 5 touchdowns and 1 interception. In the second half, Haener connected with wide receiver Jalen Cropper for 4 touchdowns in an 18-minute span.
Wow.
That's not too shabby.
None too
Fresno
shabby
State went on to win the game 38-30 in comeback fashion, and Haener is starting to garner some serious Heisman hype. You mentioned some of those favorites. Struggling early, Rattler, DJ Ongalele, whatever the quarterback is up at Ohio State. All these guys are struggling, and he's not. So he currently leads the country in passing yards with 1,842 and is tied for second in touchdowns with 15. Tanner Mordecai leads with 20. Kenny Pickett, Bryce Young, and Max Johnson all have 15. So some big-time names there, and he's in the conversation there with those guys. And like I said, he's got the big-time wins to back it up. So go Jake Haener.
Yeah, good job for him. All right, let's transition away from our helmet stickers and into our winners segment. Let's look beyond some individual players into some maybe more team efforts. I'm going to start off with one that is worthy of talking about. I think we have to talk about it, and that is the Arkansas Razorbacks. I mean, who picked at this point of the season Arkansas to be 4-0, especially knowing that they were playing Texas and Texas A&M in those first 4 games? I know I didn't. I don't think anyone in their right mind did. If you did, and if you put money on it, you were probably sitting on some good dividends on that one.
Yes, I will take some of that.
So the Razorbacks are mostly getting things done on the ground, but their quarterback, KJ Jefferson, he's done a good job of taking care of the ball. Not a lot of flashy numbers, especially this past week against A&M. but he protected the ball. He did not turn it over. He did not, often throw into triple coverage like we see some other quarterbacks do from time to time. Arkansas absolutely worthy of winner status, not only for what they did this past week beating another ranked team, but for the fact that they are 4-0. I will give them this, though. Arkansas fans, if you're listening, understand you're about to enter a very brutal stretch of your season. This week, you have number 2 Georgia. You follow that up with 12th ranked currently Mississippi, and then 22nd ranked Auburn. In no way, shape, or form do I expect them to be 7-0 after this stretch. Honestly, they'll be lucky to be 5-2 after this stretch, but no matter what happens down the road, there is no denying, and we cannot forget, that this is an Arkansas team that the last couple of years have looked Vanderbilt-esque bad. They have been abysmal. They have been the laughingstock of the SEC, especially the SEC West. And for them to turn around and do what they've done over the last 2 years under their new head coach, and especially this year, starting off the year 4-0, whatever happens from this point on, because they have a lot of tough games. This has got to be one of the toughest schedules in the country, and certainly in the SEC. Man, great job, Arkansas. Really proud of what you guys have done so far, and I'm looking forward to see what you can continue to do. We'll talk about it. We're going to pick this game a little bit later, so I won't give it up now. But really tough game ahead of you. Let's see what happens this coming week.
Yeah, don't expect them to run roughshod over Georgia. I do think you deserve to give them credit, though. This is Southwest Conference champion Arkansas. Okay,
Right.
so for those of you that don't know, they have now beat Rice, Texas A&M, and Texas, all former Southwest Conference teams. So I think they should hang a banner. So Oklahoma State would.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
My first winner. You gave love to your kicker. I'll give love to my head coach who just managed to put up 70 points for the first time since 2015.
Okay.
So Texas opened the Sarkisian era with a big win over a ranked Louisiana program that returned nearly everyone from last year's 10-1 team. He did so after naming redshirt freshman Hudson Card as the starter in a battle that he didn't name the starter until the week of that game. So really was a long, very close battle. He did say both would play, and both did play. So Card played well at home, but then looked a little shell-shocked in that loss in Fayetteville that we mentioned. So that next week, Sark made the decision to bench Card and roll with redshirt junior Casey Thompson. So little backlash there. Kind of the first sign of trouble, and Sark has mentioned his quarterback. I had a lot of people thinking that maybe he wasn't ready for this job and all of that. But Thompson has rewarded the faith. So last week he made his first start against Rice, but again, it's Rice. You can't take a whole lot from that. I mentioned last week all of the rushing yards they had. Casey Thompson didn't have to do a whole lot. But in his second career start, Thompson went 18 for 23 for 303 yards and 5 touchdowns. And Texas really took it to the Texas Tech Red Raiders 70-35. It was not just Thompson that impressed, because Texas added 336 rushing yards. Bijan Robinson, the Heisman hopeful there, had 137 of those, again averaging 7.6 yards per carry, which is just a really impressive amount to average. I mean, you're looking at, I don't even know. That's a crazy amount. The defense had some lapses in the secondary for sure, but you're looking at 3 big plays that led to touchdowns. So again, those factor in, those count. But if you take away those 3 big plays, this scoreline is way uglier than the final score turns out to be.
All right, so let me ask you, as a Texas fan, is it more concerning to you that your new head coach picked the wrong quarterback to start the season and he wasn't able to evaluate that talent properly? Or are you more excited with the fact that he was able to recognize and open things up and say, okay, this isn't working and I'm going to make a change, where a lot of coaches we've seen would stick with the guy that they said going into the start of the season, even if that was having some negative consequences. So what do you think? Where do you land on that?
So there's something to be said for loyalty, right? I mean, there's something to be said that you make a decision, you stick with the guy, but we've seen that flame out, especially here locally with, trotting out Jarrett Garantano week after week, whenever everybody, including I think Jarrett Garantano, knew he was not the guy. So I like that he reevaluated, and he finally said today for the first time, he really kind of broke it down. And he said, they put Casey Thompson in the game against Arkansas and he moved the ball. But again, it was late. The game was out of hand. But the offense seemed to take a jump when he came in. And so he said he actually went back and he rewatched the Alamo Bowl from last year after Sam Ehlinger got hurt. And Casey Thompson really lit up the scoreboard in that game. And he said every time Casey Thompson's been on the field, the offense just moves the ball. And so he kind of reevaluated why that was. Obviously, against Rice, it worked again. And so he said, we're going to try this. We're going to see how it goes. And then I think the arm talent is there for Hudson Card, but we've seen an offensive line for Texas that's really struggled. And Casey Thompson adds that elusiveness, that get out of the pocket and make plays happen with your legs aspect that really factors in behind a bad offensive line. And so I think both of those kind of led to the decision. A podcast I listened to said, if this is Alabama, Hudson Card probably is the starter still because he is that pocket passer, big arm guy. But when you need guys to go out and make plays, Thompson was the guy. And, kudos to him for realizing and making that call now before you get too far into the season and you let maybe this Texas Tech game get away from you, or maybe it's TCU, or what you don't want is to make that call before Oklahoma or before Iowa State or before one of these bigger matchups. You want to have an idea of who you are going into those games.
Bold thing to say that we have a struggling offensive line when you have a running back averaging over 7 yards per carry, but okay. My second winner. All right. Sure. My second winner is the Carolina football teams. So preseason hype, as you might imagine, centered around teams such as North Carolina as potential dark horse. They came in ranked. Everyone wanted to see what they could do. They had a Heisman hopeful quarterback. And then, of course, Clemson, who had won the last 5,000 conference championships, been to the playoffs, won championships, right? They just looked good. They were rolling into another 5-star quarterback who's had some game experience, all that stuff, right? But 4 weeks in, North Carolina, not ranked. Clemson just lost and is currently ranked 25th.
You said this was a winner segment.
I know. So let's talk about some of these Carolina football teams that make this the winner segment. You know who is ranked and who is ranked ahead of Clemson? Number 24, Wake Forest. Number 23, North Carolina State. And number 16, Coastal Carolina. 3 other teams from North and or South Carolina, 2 of them being from North, Wake Forest and North Carolina State, and 1 being from South Carolina, Coastal Carolina. All 3 of these teams somehow squeak in ranked ahead. Both of these teams, including Clemson, who was just expected to run through their conference and to, easily make their way to the playoffs again. It's kind of crazy to me. Now, I'll say this. I don't understand why Coastal Carolina is as high as they are. They are undefeated, but not really a great slate of games. They started the season ranked, and that's the only thing that I can think of is that there's not really been a reason to knock them down, and they probably slid ahead a few spots just because of some teams ahead of them losing. But Wake Forest is currently 4-0. Man, that's impressive for the Demon Deacons. They've had not a heavy slate, but they've had some true games on their schedule. And then, of course, North Carolina State, they are 3-1, but the one of those victories is over now defeated Clemson. So the Carolina football teams, North Carolina State, Wake Forest, and Coastal Carolina, congratulations on doing something that probably no one in your neck of the woods expected, being ranked above Clemson and even North Carolina, who came in as a bit of an underdog favorite this season.
Okay, now I would like to include here that the NFL team in Carolina is also 3-0.
Yeah.
And is surprising people there. How is Clemson still ranked? What have they done to be ranked?
Got ranked entirely too high in the preseason.
Well, apparently so. But that's frustrating.
It is because, had OU lost this West Virginia game this past weekend, they probably would have dropped all the way out. But it's no big deal. No problem.
My second winner, I won't go too far into my first line here. We'll let you cover it more in your loser segment. But while somebody was booing a current quarterback, Tanner Mordecai, OU transfer, was leading his new SMU Mustangs to a road upset over Big 12 rival and in-city rival TCU. So Mordecai did not have his best game. He did throw 3 picks, but he added 245 yards and 4 scores and a rushing score as well. And SMU is now 4-0, and they are looking to make a run at the American Conference title. So if you're a guy that likes to look ahead at the schedule, I would circle November 20th. So the Mustangs will travel to number 7 Cincinnati that week, and what likely decides not only that game, but likely decides who represents in that whatever bowl game the Group of 5 winner gets to go to. Likely comes down to that game. Now there's some more bumps along the road for SMU along the way, but Tanner Mordecai is looking good. So on the season, he leads the nation in passing touchdowns with 20, as I mentioned earlier, and he's 6th in passing yards at 1,268. So did OU pick the wrong guy?
I've always enjoyed Tanner Mordecai. I would have loved to have seen him stick there and maybe earn some playing time, and maybe he would be right now. But OU did not indeed pick Mordecai. They went with Spencer Rattler. And my first loser for this week is no, not Spencer Rattler, but it is OU's student section / fan base to an extent. I know it's not every OU fan because I am an OU fan and I do not count myself among this group. But there was a group of very loud people at the game who were chanting, "We want Caleb." Now, Caleb is the
Very
first
audibly.
name. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was no mistaking. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
You hear it on the TV broadcast.
Very, very clearly, and not only. I mean, at one point, the broadcasters did like hone in on it, right? Like listen to what they're doing. Mm-hmm. But there were other times when like they're just broadcasting the game and you could just hear the chants going on in the background. Listen, guys, I know OU is underperforming, and a lot of that is in one way or another. It's going to be tied to whether it's always fair or not, right? It's going to be tied in large to your starting quarterback. And Spencer Rattler is underperforming based on not only how his season ended a year ago, but, I mean, he's especially underperforming when you account for the hype that he had coming into this season. He was your Heisman frontrunner. He was expected to be the heir apparent. And OU fans are extremely spoiled right now when it comes to quarterback play from recent years. But here's the thing. Rattler was a bit underwhelming once again this week. The Sooners only scored 1 offensive touchdowns, and they only beat West Virginia by 3. Now, this is an offense who averaged over 40 points per game for like the last 3 or 4 years. So there's no denying that there's frustration from the Sooner faithful. But the fan section or whoever was doing that, and not only the students, but the whole stadium or part of the stadium chanting, "We want Caleb," it's just bad form. Especially when the guy who is under center, he's not lost you a game yet. And I'm not saying at some point he's not going to cost you a game if he keeps performing like he is, because I've seen this dude throw way too many passes into triple coverage. I've also seen him, by pure luck, not have about 3 more turnovers a game than he has gotten in some of these games. But you know what? At the end of the day, at the moment, Oklahoma, you're 4-0. You still win out and you walk into the playoffs. Right? Everything is ahead of you. Don't go causing drama. Don't go causing potential friction in your locker room. Like, don't be bad fans sitting there booing a guy who has not lost you a game yet. I know the backup quarterback is everyone's favorite player, but come on. Bad form, bad look.
I mean, the dude's averaging 74% accuracy on his passes. Has 8 touchdowns, 3 picks. 2 of those came in week 1. I mean, yeah, he's not setting the world on fire, but it's not like he's playing super poorly.
No.
He's also the 3rd leading rusher on the team. I mean,
it's OU. It's a mixture of OU fans being spoiled at the moment with quarterback play, and again, if you just watch the games, he's not playing well. I'll admit that, no. But he's not benched the guy back. Listen, OU fans, I live in the state of Tennessee. 15 minutes from UT's campus. I understand sometimes the quarterback needs to be benched, but even when Garantano was 100% deserving to be benched, I still would have thought it was bad form for the fan base to audibly chant a guy off the field. It's just a bad look, but it's especially a bad look when the guy's not costing you games at the moment.
Well, and I heard boos at the stadium when I went for Jarrett Garantano, but I'd never heard them chant to get him out. And
yeah,
we would way rather have Spencer Rattler than Garantano.
Yeah, no doubt.
No doubt. Another point here just to bring up is I assume this was a fairly big recruiting weekend for Oklahoma. So again, I don't think it's really going to affect you long term if you don't have, or if you win games, it's not going to really matter. But still, not a great look for your fan
Yeah,
base to
you're
be
you're
chanting
gonna
that.
have your spin master saying, "Look how passionate our fan base is," whatever. But there's no doubt that you could have someone thinking, I'm not gonna come play here where if I miss a tackle, I'm gonna get booed." I mean, no one wants that.
Correct. Well, I'll stick with the Big 12 here, and I will scoot over to the other Big 12 favorite for the year, Iowa State special teams.
Okay.
So stop me if you've heard me say this before, but Matt Campbell struggles mightily in September.
Yeah.
He is now 8-12 at Iowa State. He was 12-9 at Toledo. Now, here's the thing. At Toledo, he was probably playing some of those bigger opponents, right? At
Hmm.
Iowa State, that should be your cupcakes. You're 8-12. And he has struggled this year other than their 48-3 win over, like I mentioned, the hapless UNLV team. They eked out a 16-10 win over Northern Iowa, turned the ball over 24 times against Iowa in a 27-17 loss. Not actually 24, but it felt like it. None of that really mattered for the goals of Iowa State. They wanted to win the Big 12 title. All of that was still in front of them, right? You take an out of conference loss, you eke out a win over Northern Iowa. You're still 2-1. You're still ranked. You're still feeling pretty good about your chances. That notion took a huge hit in their conference opener this weekend as they went on the road to Baylor. But let me tell you the numbers. Iowa State passing yards 263 to 159 for Baylor. Rushing yards 216 to 123. Total yardage 479 to 282. Nearly 200 more yards of offense. First downs 27 to 15. Time of possession 35 plus minutes for Iowa State, 24 minutes for Baylor. Who wins that game?
Yeah. Right.
And yet Iowa State loses. And here's why. I saw this on Twitter today from an account called Stats of War. He's a TCU beat writer. Iowa State had a deflected punt for 20 yards, setting up a 56-yard field goal for Baylor. They missed a 47-yard field goal. They allowed a 98-yard kickoff return touchdown. They had a 41-yard punt to set up a late field goal for Baylor, and they had a failed two-point conversion. So if you add all those up, that's 14 points given up on special teams in a game that Iowa State loses by 2.
Hmm.
So,
Wow.
coaches like to have the old coach speak of, you got to win special teams. It's the third phase of the game, and Iowa State is proving that you can lose games there.
No doubt about it. All right, so you gave us a great example of some stats that should prove and pan out a winner. Let me give you another one. Nebraska and Michigan State met this past week. Steven, if I told you that Michigan State
Mm-hmm.
only had 12 first downs all game, that they were 1 and 10 on third downs, 0
Yes.
and 1 on fourth downs,
Mm.
only ran 52 total plays, turned the ball over, had the ball 15 minutes less than their opponent, and only had 5 yards of offense in the entire second half of the game, who would you say won that game?
Well, you said this Michigan State, Nebraska?
Yes.
Still Michigan State because Scott Frost is terrible.
Because Scott Frost is terrible. Yeah, that's exactly what stinking happened, dude. Can you believe this? They had 50. They had 5 yards of total offense in the entire second half,
That's
and they
honestly hard
won
to
the
do.
game. Dude, how do you do that, right? I try to go back and see if there was like a situation where they like snapped the punt 40 yards over the guy's head and got negative 40. No, I don't think that happened. I think they were just that bad in the second half. But it was Sparty's special team unit, talking about that third phase of the game, who came in clutch because they returned a punt for a touchdown in the fourth quarter. And then the defense stepped up a little bit in overtime and had an interception that kind of closed out Nebraska's chance to do anything there in overtime. But I don't honestly think you can say Michigan State won this game as much as you can say Scott Frost and Nebraska lost this game. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Hold the team to 5 yards total offense in the second half. And by the way, it's not like you gave up 700 yards in the first half and they were up by 40 and you were just trying to come back and came a little bit short. No, you were like 13 total first downs for them in the entire game. Or, I mean, sorry, 12. Not even 13, 12. They were 1 and 10 for third down all day. They only ran 52 plays, and you had the ball 15 minutes more than they did. You dominated this game, statistically speaking, from the first
Yeah,
half and especially in the second half, and you lost this game. That is impressive.
that's hard to do, truly. So I won't raise you necessarily, but
Okay. All
I'll
right.
pile on the Big Ten. Actually, both of my next two losers are I'm going to pile on the Big Ten. But we'll start with Wisconsin. Wisconsin held a 13-10 lead in the fourth quarter of their game on Saturday against Notre Dame. Ranked Wisconsin team. I'll also throw in the fact that Notre Dame lost their starting quarterback. Okay,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
so this is a win for the Badgers, right? At
One
least
would
a
think.
close loss, right? Yeah. No, Wisconsin loses by 4 touchdowns. 4 touchdowns.
Oh, no.
13-10 lead in the fourth quarter, lose by 4 touchdowns. After kicking that field goal to take the 13-10 lead, Notre Dame returned the ensuing kickoff 96 yards for a touchdown. After a Wisconsin fumble, Notre Dame added another score. And then with just over 3 minutes to go, Wisconsin throws a 66-yard pick six. That makes it 21-point deficit, right? But I mentioned they lose by 4 touchdowns. So under 3 minutes to go, how could they possibly give up another score? Well, they threw another pick six a minute later. This one a 45-yarder to really just pile on for the poor Wisconsin Badgers. You know, it'd be quite comical, but not if you're a Badger fan right now.
No, they're not happy people.
It's
Not happy
just
people at all.
41-13 final in a game you led 13-10 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
I,
that's the definition of collapsing, right? I mean, meltdown, trouble in
yeah.
paradise. I don't know. I don't know what else you call that. My last loser is coming from the SEC. Oh,
Mm,
Vanderbilt.
mm.
Oh, Vanderbilt, you sweet summer child. No one expected you to beat Georgia this past week.
Oh,
No one did. Even your most faithful, adamant fan They didn't. I mean, we didn't realize though that there was a very real chance that Georgia would score as many points that you would have total yards, and it was close. The
mhm.
Bulldogs scored 62 points. Vanderbilt had 77 yards of total offense for the entire game. Oh man, Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
I'm glad you got one win on your belt already because
yeah.
you
It's
might be lucky to find one more at this point. Sheesh.
four first downs for Vanderbilt.
That's rough.
4. That
Dude,
score line 35-0 after the first quarter.
how do
At,
you
at one point in that game, Georgia was on pace for 240 something points.
how do you how do you coach that? Right? I mean,
What do you do right now? Do you
I
just
but like okay, like right now it's rough. I get that. But like in that game, halftime, third quarter, something like that, and we're like, "Hey guys, we've gotten 2 first downs so far." Like, what are you saying to your team? What are you saying to your like? I get it. You're overmatched. I
Oh
get
my
it. I mean,
gosh.
it's a bad situation, but it's not like Georgia was playing UMass. I know no one expects Vanderbilt to be a powerhouse. No one expects Vanderbilt to be, a barn burning team. But you are an SEC caliber team. You should be getting somewhat SEC caliber talent to
Vandy's
have.
longest Vandy's longest completion was 10 yards, 24 passing yards.
I
So
mean,
this is not a loser for me, but I feel like I need to throw them in here real fast. Did you see what the Chicago Bears put out on the field Sunday?
I did not.
Okay, so they played Cleveland
Okay,
on the road, so
go
give
Baker.
them that. This is Justin Fields' first start.
Shake and
They
bake.
lose 26-6. They did lead
Okay,
3-0. 6 first downs, 1 of 11 on third down, 0 of 1 on fourth down, 42 total plays, 47 total yards.
boy, that's what I'm just
One
saying. Like,
one passing yard.
ooh.
One net passing yard. They were sacked 9 times.
Now that's your offensive line giving up, man. That's pride right there. You know what I'm
9
saying?
sacks with a
Man.
running quarterback, or at least a mobile
Someone, yeah,
quarterback.
should be mobile, should be able to do something.
I mean, 6 first downs in an NFL game. Like, what are you doing? Okay,
No,
that's enough of that.
that's bad.
My last loser. It comes again from the Big Ten. I told you I'd hate on the Big Ten a little
You
bit.
did.
Minnesota came in sporting a 21-game non-conference winning streak. 21 straight games. Bowling Green had lost 10 straight games, including 9 straight by 25-plus points, until they finally beat Murray State last week. Bowling Green had not won a game against a Power 5 opponent since September 26, 2015, when they beat Purdue.
Mhm.
In the 9 games against Power 5 teams since that, aggregate score of 469 to 88.
Wow.
So what happened on Saturday? That's
Well,
right.
by the transitive property,
Bowling
Tennessee's
Green
beaten
goes
some
in.
teams.
That's right. Bowling Green goes into Minneapolis and upsets Minnesota 14-10. Now that sounds bad enough, but I'm going to go to Bleacher Report for a minute, and I'm going to read you the some of the numbers from this game. Okay.
As you pull that up, let me give an RIP to Iron Ranger, frequenter in our chat here. He is a huge Golden Gopher fan.
I am
And
sorry, my
he was a
friend.
little distressed about that one. I don't think he watched that game, but I think he came in and like pulled up the score because I think he thought it was like the Saturday that he could go out and
Yeah.
enjoy nature or whatever, and like, oh, we got the win,
Yeah.
and have to watch this one, and then came back and had to see that.
So Bleacher Report says this was a game that nobody wanted to win, which is most vividly on display during a Bowling Green State possession that drained nearly half of the fourth quarter. Minnesota forced a punt, but the drive was extended by a roughing the punter penalty. 6 plays later, Bowling Green attempted and missed a 45-yard field goal, but Minnesota was called for an illegal formation, gifting the Falcons another first down. And after all that, Bowling Green fumbled the ball inside the 10-yard line.
Hmm.
Then Minnesota inexplicably punted down by 4 with less than 4 minutes remaining. And here's the best part. The Golden Gophers got the ball back twice after that, only to immediately throw an interception on both possessions. Minnesota finished the afternoon with just 59 passing yards, while Bowling Green had 25 carries for 22 yards. Each side managed just 12 first downs. There were 5 turnovers, though it felt more like 15. Just an ugly, ugly game.
Yeah.
And one that how do you score 10 points if you're Minnesota? Tennessee fans were irate earlier this year after beating them 38-3 or something like that.
Yeah, there was a lot of upset Tennessee fans thinking that game did
Now,
not.
we called it out. We said that was unreasonable. Tennessee should be happy for a
Yes,
blowout
we
win
did.
of any fashion. This is unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
You get beat by a team that had not won one game in their last 12 or something, 10 straight losses, down by 25 points, and just abysmal.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care what injuries you've had. You do not lose at home to Bowling Green. It's not allowed.
Yeah, for sure. Rough.
That's
Well, yeah.
Maybe not.
No, they gotta feel bad enough. We should probably cut them a little bit slack on.
I saw
this
somebody
one.
say row the boat, which is PJ Flex thing, and the
Right.
boat was capsizing and sinking.
It was in a real rough spot, no doubt about it.
Kayak in a hurricane there.
Yeah. All right, well, let's turn our eye to Tennessee. Let's look at what they did last week. They went to the Swamp, played the Florida Gators. Florida came in ranked. What were they ranked? Were they top 10 last week? I don't know if I'm looking at their current rank or what they were last week.
They might have fallen due to
some other teams jumping. Right now, I think they're ranked 10th, though, but they were in there. They were in that kind of range.
Close. After that loss to Bama, they might have slipped a little bit. But
yeah,
they are a top 10 team.
Top 10, top 15 at the time, maybe, but they're a top 10 now team for sure. It was a tall matchup. Neither one of us picked Tennessee to win. I think we both picked Florida to win by, anywhere between 17 and 24 points, and that's kind of right where it happened. It ended up by being 38-14. What do you think about that game? What were kind of looking back your eyes on Tennessee for this past week?
I think that you saw a lot of positives as a ball fan, but still, the proof is still there that they're not ready to really take that next step, right? They're close. Right. They're trying. They don't, what you're going to see a lot this year, I'm afraid, is as these games go on, the lack of depth that Tennessee has due to the attrition this offseason from all the players transferring, it's really going to catch up to them. So two things I was happy to see was um, they didn't seem to quit. They were down big. They kept trying, and Heupel did slow it down some, which
Mhm.
I was excited to see. He likes to go warp speed, and I'm all for that. But in some of these games, as you're trying to ice them late, you're going to have to slow it down a little bit, take your foot off the gas because that defense doesn't have the depth to keep up yet.
Right.
As you get more depth in here, you can start playing more of your brand for 60 minutes. Um, but two plays stand out. One is the missed field goal going into half. If you get points going into half, that always just seems to be a huge boost to your team.
Yeah.
Driving down the field there, getting in field goal range, and then missing that kick really hurts. I think that's the first play to point to. The second play to point to is you drop a pass wide open on 4th and 5, and from the behind angle, looks like he scores 9 times out of 10 on that play. At least gets the
Right.
first down. Um, and you just drop it.
Yeah.
Perfectly thrown ball. Wasn't fired in there. You just drop it.
Yeah.
That's inexcusable, especially as a young team, especially on the road in a game against a top 10 team. You
Yeah.
have to make things have to go your way in those games.
You
And
need some luck, but you certainly can't drop the easy
right,
ones like that.
right. You have
That's
to
going
have
to
some
kill you.
luck to
That's going
win
to
that
kill you every
game.
time.
Yeah. And again, I don't think even if you catch that, like you said, you have to have luck. Catching that does not win the game for Tennessee. But
Right.
at that
Right.
time, and again, play the what if game. If you hit the field goal, you catch that pass, it's tied up right there.
Right.
Instead, you don't get it. You're down 10. Florida goes down. It's now 17 points. And really,
And
with
it's game over at that point, to be
yeah,
honest.
and Tennessee's injuries are piling up. I mean, poor Cooper Mays, starting center, was just.
He
I
was
mean,
walking dead on that field.
yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully they got out healthy enough to go into Missouri this week, and hopefully still that one on the road. I know Hendon Hooker left with an injury. I've not heard if his status is good or questionable or what
They
his
said
status is.
he's not in percussion. He's not in concussion protocol.
Okay.
Left the game feeling woozy though after that hit. One
Yeah.
thing I read kind of said where Josh Heupel said he's going to practice and should be available this week. But then, like Heupel said, either to a different question or later in the conference, I didn't hear the conference. I'm just kind of reading the highlights of it, of
Mhm.
something of he's not sure if he'll be able to go this week, though. So I don't know. It's kind of crazy. Like at one point, it sounded like he said he would be. At another point, he kind of backtracked on that a little bit and said we'll just kind of have to see, make sure he stays out of the concussion protocol and all that. So
Well, give me your thoughts, and I have a question for you.
yes. So here's what I'll say about this game. I actually, and I know apparently there's a lot of Vol fans that disagree with this, but they can be wrong. That's fine. I thought the Tennessee coaching staff schemed a really good game this past week.
Yes.
I thought they did really smart things to put Tennessee in a position to be competitive in this game. I mean,
Mhm.
Tennessee, and we'll say this probably 20 other times throughout the season here, but they lost 30 players to the transfer portal this
Yeah.
past year. I mean, they are playing without a lot of depth. They're playing without a lot of key star players, and they're trying to make up for that. And what you would have seen in a lot of previous years of Tennessee is that they would have gotten down a little bit, and they would have just folded up and given up, and they would have been, that score would have been 10, 15 more points for Florida side. But what we saw was that Tennessee kept playing. They kept doing creative things, different things, and I don't feel like it was the coaching that cost them that game. What I think it was, and I'm not trying to put this on the players either, but I just think it was the lack of experience of the players. So many
Well,
drop
lack of
passes
execution, right?
still,
Yeah.
lack of execution, which they can work on, hopefully get better at, and you want your coaching staff to make them better at that. But at the end of the day, your coach is not responsible for you dropping a wide open pass. And, your coach doesn't have the ability to put fresh offensive linemen on when the opposing team is putting fresh D linemen out there. Like, you just don't have the depth to do it. So, of course, at some point, you're going to start getting broken down. My only slight little asterisk there is I don't know what the deal was with Cooper May's injury. The dude looked like the Walking Dead out there for about 4 or 5 plays. And I don't know if it just took the coaching staff that long to realize how hurt he was. Let's face it, it's not like the dude was unconscious out there. He was getting up and playing. We kind of meme it a little bit, but there's no denying that that dude was taped up. He was in no condition
Yeah.
really to be in there. And I do felt like he stayed in that game a little longer than he probably should have. I think someone should have pulled him a little earlier. But, you know, that is what it is. So,
I just Florida's a good football team,
they are.
and
Now, Chef Kane is saying that they're going to lose this week, though, going to
there
Lexington.
there's 0% chance of that.
I don't know, man. I believe.
Okay, we'll see. Um, you know, Tennessee just they had to have things go their way, and they didn't. Some of that's their own fault. Some of that is due to Florida's game plan or whatever. So you look at all of that, and um, I agree with you though. I think that Heupel had the game plan right. I think he called plays that we haven't seen. I think he threw Todd Grantham for a little bit of a loop early with some of those shots he took, and ultimately, I think that he put Tennessee in the best position to win, and they came up short, and that's okay. They're a young team. That's going to happen. But I like the fact that we have a coach that's going toe to toe with some of the better coaches in the conference. Dan Mullen, I think, is inarguably a top 5 coach in the SEC. Um, so my question for you, and you asked me about this with Texas. I don't know if the coaching staff has decided on Hooker. To me, when they put Milton out there as the backup in a game that was already decided, that was enough to tell me that he was healthy enough to go this week, and they chose Hooker over Milton. I could be way off on that, but if both are healthy, or at least both are equally unhealthy, who do you think starts this week for Tennessee?
Well, I thought it was interesting because before this game, Heupel said that he wanted to go with one quarterback. And the
Mhm.
fact that Hooker went out there and started, and that we did see, what's his face,
Milton.
Milton. Thank you. I wanted to say Mixon, and I knew it wasn't right. That we did see Milton come out to play tells me that he started who he wanted to start in that game, and I think
Mhm.
that if he is healthy enough, then I think Heupel's going to continue to roll with Hooker over Milton because I think that what we're seeing is a better command of the offense under Hooker's leadership. Obviously, he does not have the arm strength that Milton has, but I think he has a better touch on the ball. I think he's got some better accuracy. And certainly he's not, a speedster or mobile guy, but I think he can move the pocket. I think he can get out and get some yards. A little bit of a Josh Jobs light, so to speak,
Mhm.
at times. So all things considered, I think if he's healthy and available, I not only think that Hooker is the right call, but I think it's the one that Heupel will make.
I think it should be. I think we saw. I mean, Milton came in and threw 1.5 catchable balls.
Yeah,
One he completed, one was high, should have been caught, hit him in the hands, but it was high. And then the rest were just horrible throws.
it's way
I
off.
mean,
Yeah,
awful throws. I mean, he including one where he threw one. I mean, Florida was not trying at that point, right? And he threw one into the third row of the stand. I
yeah,
mean, throwing the ball 7 yards is really cool. If it goes 20 yards over anybody's head, it doesn't do you much good.
yeah.
So, you're right. Hooker has shown a better command. He throws a better deep ball. I can't throw it as far, but it is catchable. And then to me, what you're going to see is this O line is more and more banged up. His ability to get on the edge and make plays. He is quicker than Milton is, at least and able to get out of the pocket. And so I think that's going to be huge for Tennessee in the coming weeks. I hope he's healthy enough to go this week. If he's not, would you play Milton or would you go with Bailey?
No, if Milton is healthy enough to play as well, I think you probably roll him out over Bailey. There's a reason that we're not seeing him on the field. There's a reason that even when other guys have been injured and not at 100%, that he has stayed on the bench. I don't know what that reason is. We haven't got enough film on him. What we've seen hasn't looked spectacular, but arguably what we've seen hasn't really given him a chance to kind of get into a rhythm and a groove. But I trust that coaching staff has seen him in a rhythm and a groove and still say that whether it's not knowing the playbook or just not executing, whatever it is, but he is not getting it done on the practice field enough to move up that depth chart, even when you have some guys injured. So, you put Milton in because he has you put Milton in because he has game experience, because he can, go out there and do some things. And then if for some reason he's struggling or turning the ball over, I mean, I guess you roll the dice and put, your third stringer in. But I just feel like Josh Heupel has to know the quarterback position well enough to know that guy's not getting it done.
I agree with you. Obviously he sees it way more than we do, but I think I've seen enough that for whatever reason, when they get in the game, Milton, I don't know if he gets amped up. I don't know what it is, but he just cannot throw a catchable ball. To me, I am going to make my prediction for this week. We'll talk about it here. We'll move on from the Florida game. I'm making it with the assumption that Hooker plays. That Hooker's healthy enough to start.
Sure.
If that doesn't happen, then a lot of these things change. But since we record on Monday and not on Friday, we're going with he should go, but he might not. So we'll assume he goes. At least I will. So I think if you take care of the ball this week, the way the defense played, especially for a half against a really good rushing attack in Florida, I think that defense gives you a chance to win most of the rest of your games, right? Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, those are different beasts. But I think the defense gives you a chance to win. If the offense can just catch the balls that are thrown to them, then and that seems to go our way every week other than the Florida game. So I don't see why we wouldn't drop wide open balls this week. Or why we would. So I'm going to roll with Tennessee this week. I think they go into Missouri, they get it done. I think it will be a high scoring game. We'll see how banged up Tennessee is, but assuming that Hooker goes, assuming relative decent health, give me the Vols. We'll say 42-38.
Yeah, I think injuries is going to be a huge part of it. We saw a lot of volunteers get injured last week. So now we just got to see, are they back on the field and how healthy are they if they are or are not back on the field. I will also operate under the assumption that Hooker is starting. With that in mind, I have not been impressed with Missouri. They have a win over Central Michigan and a win over Southeastern Missouri. And then losses to
quality teams now.
Yeah, two quality teams. And then losses to Kentucky and to Boston College. And I know Chef Kane is high on those Cats in our chat, and they're doing great. They're 4-0. You have to give them credit where credit is due. But I don't see them as necessarily a gigantic powerhouse, given that their wins are over L.A. Monroe, Missouri, Chattanooga, and
close win over Chattanooga.
And South Carolina, who has some problems there as well. So with that said, I'm not impressed with Missouri. I think that if Heupel comes in with a good game plan and the players are able to connect with even just as much of it as they did in the Florida game, clean up a couple of things there, continue to get better, as I think they are going to do, that Tennessee does win this game. I could see it being high scoring as well. I could see something like maybe 35-27 kind of final score in there. Okay. Tennessee wins.
One other point to note is Heupel did coach at Missouri, so
he did. OC there. Mm-hmm.
I don't see him. A lot of coaches don't like to lose places they've coached before, and so I think he'll come into this game wanting it a little extra, and I think that might be the difference, right? I mean, he might scheme it a little better because he's been there. I know the coaching staff's not the same, but he understands that place. I think that's the X factor this week. Again, assuming health, I think Tennessee gets done.
For sure. All right, we have an intriguing thing now. I didn't do research on it, Steven, so we might have to skip this for another week unless you have done the research on it. But real intriguing thing, yeah, so we want to touch on this on another week. But, we tend to jump into our outside the stadium here pretty soon, and there is some more of this name, image, likeness We just told you that at the beginning of the season when we did an episode on this subject that it's going to be an evolving thing. And there's currently a petition, lawsuit-esque thing coming from some players in the ACC that are talking about how unfair the NIL can be to these lesser-known players. Hey,
What?
who said that? I mean,
No.
honestly, I want to toot mine horn and I want to toot your horn because we said it, but
Don't
holy
touch my horn.
cow, like 1,000 people said this beforehand as well. How could it not go wrong whenever you have your Alabama quarterbacks getting paid $1 million before they take their first snap of football, and the guy down in the trench can't get sponsored by the local Wendy's and make $25 in endorsements, right? We knew this would
I will,
happen.
I will say one note on this, and it might just be this season, right? We might just be having a crazy year. But for whatever reason this year, there is way more parity in college football.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson, way down. Alabama does not look unbeatable. Georgia
Georgia's
looks the
up.
best of anybody, but Ohio State's lost.
Kentucky's 4-0.
Yeah, see, like that, that's unheard of.
Yeah, I think it's too
So,
early for the NIL to be making that impact, but I can see that
correct.
doing
I
that
agree,
soon.
but it is
Yeah,
interesting that this year of all years is when you see it. And again, it's probably just a random outlier year coming off of COVID or whatever. But
sure.
I mean, OU struggled, Ohio
Yeah,
State struggled, Oregon hasn't looked amazing.
right.
Clemson's lost 2 games for the first time since Vietnam. I mean, it's a crazy year for sure. And so, maybe parity is coming back to college football. I think more likely it's not. But yeah, I mean, everybody knew this was coming, right? And this is what I've said from the jump. Let's give it 2 or 3 years and see what this all looks like, right? Once these companies realize that paying a guy $1 million doesn't equate to $2 million back in your pocket, maybe we'll slow this roll down.
Maybe so, but I still think you're going to have your
And that's
Bob's Honda
and that's
Ford paying the quarterback $1 million to come play for their team.
and that's fine. I mean, so be it, right? If you're that good, so be it.
Well, until you're the guy that's keeping him, on his feet, and you're getting nothing. And Chef, I agree with you. Well, I think paying players it makes sense. I think NIL can make sense. I think there's some inherent flaws to it,
Well,
and
and
I
I think
think
ultimately, I think that's what this petition is about, right? They want
right.
a national parameter set
Make a cap for it, maybe,
so that
or
the SEC can't set one policy and the Big Ten sets another,
yeah,
and that negatively or positively affects one conference over the other. They're
yeah.
just wanting a broad strokes that says, you know, this is the policy. You can
Everyone plays by
accept
the
X
same
amount.
rules.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the teams that don't play by the rules they're never going to play by the rules. We
yeah.
know it doesn't happen, right?
It's gonna happen above
Teams
the table or below the
struggle.
table.
Exactly.
All right, let's pick 5
Well,
games straight up.
let's do it.
Not against the spread or anything, just straight up. Here we go. I'll give it to you 5-1 here. You tell me
Okay.
who is going to win. Number 6, Oklahoma travels to Kansas State.
Didn't Kansas State win this game 2 years ago
They did. Only reason I included it here.
in the Little Apple?
Yes.
Kansas State's coming off a rough loss, but they've looked really good this year. OU cannot play the way they have and win this game.
Yes.
That being said, maybe the boos, as negative and bad as they were, are enough to get Rattler going. I don't like Rattler. He's a kind of a D-bag, but he's also a guy that feasts on hate. And so maybe that's what it takes to get him turned in the right direction. So give me OU in a closer than wanted game.
Sure. Yeah, this OU's not what they need to be. Maybe they start to get it into shape, but I feel like I say that every week, so there's no reason to think it will. However, I feel like OU is going to break my heart at some time this year. I just think it'll probably come during the Texas game. So until then, I'll keep rolling OU. This way they can be ranked as high as possible when they go and get demolished by Texas in the Red River Shootout. So I'll take OU in this game.
We've mentioned they have a letdown every year.
They do.
They've had multiple that they've won. So maybe they've dodged the bullet, or maybe there's not a very good team. That's to be decided.
To be determined. Number 22, Auburn travels to LSU.
Auburn had a bit of a scare this week. Going on the road to LSU is never fun. Do you know what time this game is? Death Valley at night is not fun.
Ooh, nope.
So I'm going to look it up and see what it says. It is a 9 p.m. kickoff. What?
Oh, no.
Give me
JJ, what is she
LSU
doing?
at night in that stadium.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it was a night game. I just thought it being there in Death Valley was enough to maybe tip the scales. I was going LSU as well. All right, number 12, Ole Miss going to number 1, Alabama.
Give me Lane Kiffin.
Yes, I was wondering if you were going to do it.
I think he's circled this game for a long time. Bama's looked very beatable.
You said
I
this
think
in our preseason breakdown of the SEC that you thought
I
Kiffin
did.
would be able to do it.
I think Florida exposed some things a couple weeks ago that if Dan Mullen can scheme, Lane Kiffin can absolutely scheme. Matt Corral is head and shoulders better than Emory Jones. I will say that I think Florida has the better run game, but I'm rolling with Matt Corral. That offense has looked just dominant. So give me the Rebels on the upset though in Tuscaloosa.
In Tuscaloosa.
And this
wow.
game will be like 100-95, by the way.
Okay. If this game was played at Ole Miss, I would feel a lot more confident for Kiffin. Bama, they look beatable, but they also look good. So I'll take Bama in this one. All right, next one. Number 7, Cincinnati versus number 9, Notre Dame.
Skipped one, but okay.
We'll go in there. I'll say that one for
last. Okay. I'd mentioned Notre Dame earlier and how they won a game in which they were down 3 to Wisconsin by 28 points.
Mm-hmm.
However, they were down 3 in the fourth quarter to Wisconsin. So this is not a great team. A lot of media members this week are spinning it as, whoa, look at what Notre Dame was able to come back and do. Kudos to them for doing it. Cincinnati's a better team. Cincinnati gets this done. Cincinnati gets their signature win here, and they make that argument. Listen, Clemson's got 2 losses. I think there's a good chance that
if Clemson has 2 losses?
No, Clemson has 2 losses. Ohio State has a loss.
No, Clemson only has 1 loss right now.
No, they lost to Georgia and NC State.
Oh, yeah, they lost to Georgia, too.
I think Oregon gets a loss this year. And so if there's a year for a group of 5 team to make it, this is the year. And so give me Cincinnati to make their statement here and to hold on to their hopes.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think Cincinnati is a legitimate team this year. However, every week it looks like Notre Dame's going to lose, and they somehow come back and win. So I'll keep riding that little Catholic team. I'll take Notre Dame. And then the last one that we're picking for tonight, can the number 8 Arkansas Razorbacks continue to surprise the world and beat number 2 Georgia on the road?
Do we know what KJ Jefferson's status is?
I don't know.
Okay. Sam Pittman, let's see. KJ Sore, Traylon Sore obviously played some good football teams. I think both of them will be fine. They may or may not be able to go full speed today. Don't think it will be a problem for the game. That helps Arkansas. Obviously, you want your starting quarterback and your best receiver to play. Don't think it matters. Georgia's not going to allow Arkansas to run all over them. Georgia's got the athletes where they don't necessarily have to stack the box. And even if they do stack the box, their corners are fine in one-on-one coverage. They're going to force KJ Jefferson to beat him with the arm. I don't think he can do it. Give me Georgia in a blowout fashion.
Ooh-wee! Unfortunately, I think you're right. I think there's going to be some pork back served to the Dogs. I think they're just too good of a team. I think they're the real deal. And I don't think they're going to be sleeping on Arkansas. I think that they're going to see what Arkansas has done, and they're going to be ready to shut them down. I think they'll scheme well for them, and that at the end of the day, whether this is close or a blowout, I don't know about that. I would be more inclined to think blowout personally, but I could see the Hogs sticking with it longer than maybe some of these previous teams that have played Georgia. But
okay, I'll tell you this. I don't think it'll be 35-0 after the first quarter.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you that too. But yeah, I do think Georgia wins this game though. All right.
There it is.
That's our pick 5.
Those are our logs. You should absolutely go with all of those.
Go and just put as much money as you possibly want to lose on any one of those, and we'll do it for you. But now, my friends, now it's time for our Mount Rushmore segment. That's right. Mount Rushmore, the time of each show where we break down our top 4 of some crazy, random, weird topic.
Okay.
Sorry, I just really like the music tonight. It was really hitting me, my patriotic soul. Tonight we are breaking down our top 4 of non-MCU superhero movies. And I didn't say it in the list, but if you want to toss in TV shows, I know DC's had some good TV shows on the CW. If you want to toss any of those in, you're welcome to. But last week we broke down.
Give me that option.
Well, I thought it was kind of explicitly said there, but last week we broke down MCU films, so this week we're going to break down non-MCU films. Mind you, these can still be Marvel characters, just outside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All right, you want to start us off, or would you like me to?
You lead us out, and for the record, it is not explicitly said. It actually says in our notes, superhero movies, non-MCU.
It does. But last week it was movies and TV shows, so I just assumed. All right, here we go. Mine are all currently movies. Number 4, I'm going with Superman Returns. I know a lot of people dog this as a terrible Superman movie, but here's what I like about it. We get a more modern look and with more modern special effects, continuation of the Christopher Reeves Superman. I love Christopher Reeves as Superman. I love how Superman Returns kind of continue that story. Some of the plot line was wonky. It wasn't great, but seeing Superman on that screen in that way with those graphics was phenomenal. So it does make my list. Number 3 for me is X-Men and or X-Men 2. It's been so long since I've seen them, I can't remember which one I liked a little bit better. But I will say that the X-Men movie was one of the first superhero, especially like mashups, even though they always kind of operate as a team anyway. But when you got a bunch of different superheroes on the screen fighting together, back whenever doing this with Marvel characters was nothing more than a pipe dream. Seeing that was great. That was our first introduction of Wolverine as played by, what's his face? What's his name?
I can't think of it.
Boy, Mark Hamill.
That's not it.
Oh, that's not it at all. Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Woo. That was gonna kill me. So our first seeing of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, which is just a fantastic character. Love that. So that's gonna make my list. Number 2 has to be The Dark Knight, and really, I'll say when I say The Dark Knight, you can really include that whole trilogy of movies in that. Probably, all 3 of those movies deserves to be in the top 4. So I'm kind of lumping that trilogy as one, but the best of them was The Dark Knight. Just a fantastic movie. Heath Ledger's Joker was fantastic. Christian Bale's throat cancer was in full effect with his Batman voice. But just a great movie. Loved it. Loved everything about it. Number 1 for me, though, is absolutely without a doubt Spider-Man 2. The good old Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Listen, you're just too young to understand and to realize that we would not have any of these superhero movies without Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. All 3 of them were good. The third one was bad, I'll admit that. The first one was fantastic, and the second one of the top superhero movies inside the MCU or outside the MCU. It is just great. The Doc Ock fight, all of that was just some really good stuff. It definitely makes my list.
Tobey Maguire's terrible.
I'm going to give an honorable mention to Chef Kane in our chat, who threw out the Adam West 1964 Batman movie. Any movie that has Batman and Robin hanging on a rope with a shark biting their leg, and they go to the bat belt for shark repellent to get the shark off of them, is 100% worthy of making the list. Okay, maybe not. It's great for the cheesy nostalgia, but a true one really is that original Batman series starring Michael Keaton. He did 1 and 2, and those were fantastic Batman movies. Again, just the backbone of superhero movies. We might not have got a lot of them without something like that paving the way. You had fantastic directors doing those. Those were just fun movies, and I don't care what you say, Michelle Pfeiffer is Catwoman in that Batman 2. What was that? Batman Returns? Yeah. It holds up. It holds up.
All right. Spoiler alert, there are no Tobey Maguire movies making my list. I will lead off with number 4, Logan.
You're a bigot.
Logan was great. I really liked it. It was very dark, but I thought they did a good job with it. I thought it was a cool movie. It was a different kind of movie. Um, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Number 3, Venom. You have not seen Venom.
I
It might
haven't,
be
but
a
I've heard
little
it's great.
high, but I really enjoy it. I'm sure more of the comic book stans and all of them will say it's not great, but I'm not a comic book stan. I enjoy a good movie for what it is, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Number 2, another one I was surprised did not make your list, Deadpool. Surprised
Hmm.
no Deadpool on your list. Big Ryan Reynolds fan, so I thought he did a great job in Deadpool. It was very well done. That comedy aspect, comedy made a lot of my list on the MCU side. As you can
Hmm.
tell, I'm a comedy guy. So give me Deadpool number 2, and then number 1 for me is The Dark Knight. I The whole trilogy probably could have made the list, and it'd have been fine. But I think The Dark Knight is the best. Heath Ledger is so good as the Joker. There, you mentioned Christian Bale's throat cancer in full effect.
Where's
Just a really
Harvey Dent?
really good movie overall. Harvey Dent did a good job. Or who plays him again? Whoever that is. He did a good job. Start to finish, just really enjoyed that movie. So Dark Knight makes my list as well. Honorable mention to again one of the X Men movies. I don't remember which one it is. One of them's good. The other one's my issue with X Men movies. You can never track the timeline. They just
Yeah.
like they make some movies and they're like, let's just go back and
Let's
redo
just
Wolverine.
restart it all.
Let's just do
Hey,
Wolverine
congratulations,
again.
Wolverine Origins, and then
Yeah,
Wolverine, and then
yeah.
Logan, and
Yeah, it's like every third movie is just back to Wolverine, and I can't
yeah,
track it all. But one of those is good. Um, the dishonorable mention to Tobey Maguire.
you're rude. Okay, so what I'll say about this, because you brought up a thing, and I'll say it, I'll mention it. The reason that Logan didn't make my list, I liked a lot of parts of it, didn't love all of it.
Hmm.
But kind of one of the reasons it didn't make my list is the same reason that Deadpool didn't make my list, and a little bit of why the new Suicide Squad didn't make my list. All of them good. Obviously, Deadpool was hilarious, and this new Suicide Squad did a great job of giving us a look at what an R-rated Guardians of the Galaxy would look like. It was a funny movie, but one of my key components for watching a superhero movie is that I can just turn it on at any time, sit down, and enjoy it. And, unfortunately, having a 5-year-old kid, I can't just sit down and turn on Deadpool. I can't sit
Or
down and turn on
Logan. That's
Suicide
fair.
Squad or Logan.
That's fair.
Whereas I have
I
no
have not.
problem watching an R-rated film. I enjoy being able to
There's a
just go
line.
and well, it's not even like I'll watch it, but I think I've never seen any one of those movies more than one time, and that's not because I don't like them. I thought they were fantastic. It's just I don't have the freedom, and I certainly don't have the time to wait until everyone in my house is asleep to go back and watch a movie that's just going to be high and vulgar and different things like that. So I can sit down and I can turn on, Captain America or Guardians of the Galaxy or any of those and not have
Mhm.
to worry too much about what's going to be said or done.
I uh, I have not seen the new Suicide Squad, or nor have I seen Birds of Prey. I heard both are
Yeah, I've
pretty
not seen
good.
Birds of Prey. Yeah, I will say this about the
Um,
Suicide Squad. It is funny. It's pretty stinking violent, man. Like
is it?
there's a scene where like the shark just picks up a man and like rips him in half, and like you just see it all. Like
Oh,
it's pretty intense, and that isn't. I'm not too squeamish about that, but again, being a family man, not watching a lot of movies, I did not. I'm like, ooh, that's I don't get to watch that kind of stuff very often. It's pretty intense. Chef Kane asked where we're at with the new cut of Batman Superman. I'll be honest, Chef, I did not get to see the
haven't seen
Snyder
it.
cut. That's just another one of those things I want to because I love Superman, I love Batman, but I know it was just super long, and I did not have the time to invest in that watch.
If we include shows, Green Arrow makes my list, as does Daredevil.
Okay, well, yeah, I guess that's true. Daredevil would not be in the MCU. You're right. I'll give you that. Daredevil was fantastic. Arrow seasons 1 and 2 were great. I kind of
It
stopped
gets a little weird.
losing interest in
I
like 3, 4,
I
and I don't
just
think I've seen anything after
yeah,
that. So
the Flash just cool
no, see,
character.
I even love
Show's not
Flash.
good.
I love Flash season 1, and maybe even
It's too
2.
magic-y, and yeah, I'm,
It
I'm
gets a
with
little
you.
much, yeah. So, all right, Steven, you got anything else from this past week of sports and or anything else?
No, man, I'm excited for another good week of college football this week.
Another good week. Another great lineup of some games. We're getting into the time where most of the cupcake matchups are done. We're really getting into some hard-nosed football, some conference games going on. We've seen some, but we're going to see a lot more, and that is an exciting time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to Season 3, Episode 9 of the Sports Corner Podcast. You can follow us on social media at Sports Corner 865. You can also find both of our socials off of that as well. You can catch us live on Twitch or on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube. However you find us, thank you for listening. Until next time, we'll see you later.
Never forget, Batman v Superman.